been working as a software engineer in the tech industry for the past 6 years, and in those years, I have been able to see some of the things that they're doing against software engineers, and that is why in this video, I want to talk about the 5 things that I have noticed that corporate is doing against software engineers. And if you're in corporate, I hope that this video helps you to try and figure out what is being done wrong against you as a software engineer and how you can better place yourself so that you are not being taken advantage of. The first thing is that they expect you to be a jack of all trades. Now let's be honest for a few minutes. And in all honesty, you cannot know everything and give everything to a corporate company if it doesn't match the compensation, which is something we're going to talk about in the next few minutes. When you are working in corporate, they expect you to actually know your job and do another person's job. I saw that there is a really laxity when it comes to setting boundaries for the job roles, especially the work that you've been contracted to do as a software engineer. They tend to blur the lines between you actually doing your job and you having to attend to other IT related problems. Most of the time, corporate will lack to understand that you actually know your role, and just because you are a software engineer, it doesn't necessarily mean you have the technical expertise to attend to other technical issues that arise within the system or within the corporate tech tools that they are actually using in their business. Now, we cannot speak about corporate taking advantage of software engineers if we don't talk about unreasonable timelines. Now, let's say, for instance, you're working on a project on a particular company. It will require you a minimum of 3 to 6 months to actually deliver a minimum viable product. Most software engineers, we do know that timelines vary because we have to work with debugging the project just in case it has problems we had not already corrected when we were coding, or there are some issues with compatibility to the system as well as the technology we are using. Therefore, it takes a bit more time to make sure we resolve these issues right before we release a product. But when you are in corporate, this is actually thrown outside the door. They give you unreasonable timelines just because they feel that you are supposed to work heaven and earth to make sure that you deliver a good product. They do not understand that you actually need time to understand the code base, to work out a systematic workflow of the project, as well as deliver something that is viable that can be used as you continue improving the process. Now, the unreasonable timelines mostly come because they will install a manager or a supervisor to the project who is not really tech savvy, and therefore they do not really understand the concept of inception all the way to where you deliver a project. Now, with that being said, we have to talk about work-life balance. Most of the time when we as software engineers are signing contracts to work for companies, we actually look at the work-life balance if it's going to be there. But because of the unreasonable timelines, you will receive minimal to no work-life balance just because they need to reach you out anytime there's a system failure. Now, with that being said, you have to understand that with corporate, they rarely care about you as a person. They care less about your personal life, and they would rather let you compromise your personal life in order for you to fulfill whatever it is that they actually want and they want to achieve so that they can maximize profits. Now, if you have no idea what I mean with work-life balance, this is a situation where you can be able to actually spend your time off working hours in a more productive way to enhance your overall way of living. But when you are working as a software engineer, especially in corporate under a company, they care less whether you have a family or if you want to do anything for yourself. And therefore, you will be caught in these situations where they will be calling you at wee hours of the night in order for you to attend to a system failure or fix a bug or maintain something in the code base that is actually affecting their system. They will even go to the extent where they will lie to you that they're gonna pay you for extra working hours, but in real sense, when you look at your check at the end of the month, it does not reflect your overtime. Now, when you sign a contract as a software engineer in corporate, you will be pushing your code lines to the company code base, which begs the question, where does the code ownership actually go to? Now, once you have read your contract, you will get to a point where you will read that once you actually start pushing code to that particular code base that they're going to provide for you, they own that code content in perpetuity. Now, for those of you who are not law people, in perpetuity means that the moment you actually leave that particular company, that code base belongs to them and you cannot file any suit to ask your code base or your ideas back, or even get to claim any ownership rights to writing that particular code base. Software engineers actually get thrown under the bus when they sign these contracts because you cannot actually use that particular code base as long as they are giving you a monthly paycheck. Most of the software engineers who actually write these pieces of code are usually in their prime years and they are having the best ideas. But because you have already signed a contract and you're working under a particular company, you cannot claim the rights to any of these code bases or any code that you have been pushing to that particular company. Now, that being a disadvantage to software engineers in such a way that you cannot actually build any other idea that resembles whatever you've been able to do in that particular company, because they have the rights to sue you and they have the rights to do whatever they want with your code base. So that means you cannot have any legal rights to having your code base or your ideas at that matter. We cannot talk about software engineers being taken advantage of if we don't talk about compensation. Now, for those of you who are in the tech industry, this is how you're actually supposed to be negotiating your compensation. There has to be three main categories in your compensation line. There has to be a base salary, which is going to actually stand or cover for your expenses in that particular company. Then you're also supposed to be having a 401k, which is supposed to be more or less your retirement benefit kind of plan. And then there also has to be equity. Now, with equity, it can either come in terms of you will own shares of the product that they're building once it goes public and people can buy shares in the company, or you will have some percentage of ownership to the company because they cannot cover the rest of the money that you're supposed to be asking for in terms of your compensation. The reason why you're getting all these things as a compensation for your company, it's because most companies understand that you're using your brain, you're using your ideas, as well as you are actually going to build out something from scratch. Engineering is not something that is easy to do, and that is why you're supposed to be adequately appreciated for the effort that you put in. But most of the time, because we as software engineers lack the knowledge when it comes to the compensation, we get to this point where we are not being adequately compensated. But because you want to have that job security, you end up not looking for any other role and you end up staying in a stagnant position where you cannot proceed further with your career because you feel like you'll be losing an opportunity. Now, I know most of you are wondering, okay, Gloria, you've shared with me all these points, but what do I do to make sure that I do not get taken advantage of? The first thing you're gonna have to do is to set your boundaries. Read your contract and understand your job description before you even sign it. Before you even get to a point where you accept the job, make sure you also negotiate for your salary, because negotiation always wins. Make sure you get the best deal out of these companies because they're doing the exact same thing to you. And then the third thing that you want to do is not to take up work that has not been indicated as part of your job description. What do I mean by this? When you're a software engineer, you are not an IT support specialist. And with that being said, you have to draw a clear boundary or a clear line that separates you from doing the actual coding and delivering an actual product, and you having to do company maintenance, which is supposed to be actually a job that is done by someone who has specialized in hardware configurations and hardware maintenance. Now, I really do hope that you found this particular video to be enlightening. If you did, then make sure to let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. Have you been in a situation where a corporate company is taking advantage of you as a software engineer? And what did you do in that particular situation? But if you did enjoy the video, then make sure to give me a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already, and I am going to see you in the next one.